Hi, I'm Michael Boyajian, and just putting out a series of LGBTQ books, and thought I'd talk about a discovery I made while working on the marriage equality movement here in New York. Um, to begin, what led me to that was I'd be at a lot of political functions, and inevitably someone would pull out of their suit pocket one of these. I have the Constitution in my top pocket, as if that made them an authority. Usually they were the least democratic person in the room. So as a joke, as a sort of joke, I saw it at the British Library when my late wife Jerry and I were there a few years back, and I said I got to get this. That we got to see the actual Magna Carta. There's several copies of it. I think that library has two. One was on the road and one was viewable. And unlike our Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights, which is behind glass and special gases in the glass, and if anything happens, they fold up and go down 10 miles into the ground, and you can't reach them with an atomic bomb. The Magna Carta is sitting behind a regular glass showcase, or at least it appears to be that way. Anyhow, so I got this booklet that when someone pulled out I carry the Constitution in my top pocket, I'd whip out this and say, I carry the Magna Carta in my top pocket. And again, most people in the room, if I'm in the United States, have no idea what the Magna Carta is or what its importance is, as a matter of fact, which is the right to habeas corpus. It was signed in 1200 something by King John, and it was between him and the nobles. But it's pretty much started, I guess, people's rights. Aside from those from ancient Greece and the municipal democracy in Rome. Anyhow, while on marriage equality, so excuse me, I dropped it. Being up here in FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt country, I came across the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was written in the early 60s under the supervision of Eleanor Roosevelt. She was in charge of the project. And it's amazing to think that she was still operating in the early 60s, and there's pictures of her with John F. Kennedy and stuff. It's amazing. She seems like she's from such a different era, like the origins of the modern world almost, But she and again, FDR would have been around too. He had heart disease, which today they probably would have put a stent in him and he would have been fine. The urban myth that he was tired after all the war and depression and all that had nothing to do with it. He had heart disease. Okay, plain and simple. Anyhow, what I did discover in this while working on marriage equality is that Eleanor Roosevelt, it was under her supervision, but her team slipped in what I believe is implied LGBTQ rights, implied, not specifically stating any type of LGBTQ identifying word or anything like that, gay, lesbian, or any other homosexual, whatever was in usage back then. It was generally implied. So I'm going to go through the 30 clauses here. Some are applicable, some are not, just to give you an idea how ahead of her time she was, and how she could see into the future and see that this was going to be important. Okay, so Article 1 is all human beings. Again, I put emphasis on all human beings are entitled to equal rights. Okay? Article 2, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national association, or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Okay, so it's everyone, and at the end of the sentence, other status. Okay, what could that mean? Anyhow, Article 3. Everyone has a right to life, liberty, and security of person. Again, everyone. Okay, and I'm going to mention this just because of the ridiculous statements coming out about slavery, but no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. No one, okay? And it goes on a little bit after that, but the interesting thing here is servitude. And to me, that means the problem we're having today in the United States with most of the student population in school or out of school indebted the rest of their lives with student loans, most paying till the day they drop dead and still owing money after that. That's what I view as that, okay? Article 5, cruel and unusual punishment. Anyhow, Article 6, everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law, okay? Again, everyone. We're not just talking about, say, African Americans in the South or something back in the 50s, although it seems like it applies even today nationwide here. But anyhow, let's go to Article 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without discrimination to equal protection of the law. Again, the word is all. Okay? And here's the Article 8. Everyone has a right to remedies. Everyone. It's not specifying. Even the New York State Division of Human Rights specifies the different rights which evolve into the law over time. You know, for instance, when I first started there, the service animals were just coming into being a right. Before that, they weren't, okay? Anyhow, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, etc. Article 10, everyone is entitled to full equality to a full public hearing. Article 11, everyone shall be charged and presumed innocent. Okay, that's a criminal thing there. Article 12, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with, they use the word his privacy. Okay, I'm viewing that as just a language term, not as a restriction on males. Okay, I don't think Eleanor would have signed on to that. Anyhow, so that's the privacy right there, which is today under threat by certain members of the United States Supreme Court who draw these inferences from treatises from the medieval times written by witch hunters, okay? Witches are nice people. They're nature-oriented spiritual people. They're not, these Halloween characters you see, although they do enjoy watching those movies. But again, it's privacy right. And this was written and completed in the early 1960s. And the Supreme Court fellows are reaching back, I don't know, 1,500 years, before bathing became routine or anyone knew what disease was. Or as Woody Allen says in his movie Midnight in Paris, you can't go back in time because they didn't have penicillin. Very accurate, yes. Anyhow, moving on to Article 13 is freedom for movement. Again, you're not restricted to borders and you can move anywhere you want, and that would apply to some of these abortion rules coming into effect now, which whatever side you're on, you're against. My one family member is pro-life, one family member is choice, but they both agree it's their right, not as women, not the right of a man or a politician, certainly, to tell them what to do, okay? And again, if they want to leave the state to have something done, well, show them Article 13. Article 14, everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy asylum, okay, from persecution, okay? So, all these people building up on the borders, they have a right to hearings here. You Can't keep them out with what are they using now? Flotation devices with barbed wire on them. I mean, how do you where do you get these ideas from? What are you reading? What are you watching? I mean, really. And again, why are you putting them on buses to New York? The jobs that they're looking for are out west on the 10 million acre agricultural farms. Again, why are food prices going up? Because there's no workers to take care of the harvesting. They're all sitting on the border, being locked out. Okay. Hey, sometimes I wonder. Anyhow, let's see. Article 15. This is something. This doesn't apply. Everyone has a right to nationality. You can't be denied that you have a nationality. I don't want to read into that right now. That could be like peeling an onion or something, legally speaking. Let's move on to Article 16. Okay. Okay, now here it is. It says men and women have the right to marry. Now, notice this language. Eleanor approves this now. Eleanor Roosevelt. Sorry if I call her by her first name. Is just such a personable person, Men and women, not men between women, women between men. Marriage is between a man and a woman. None of that language. It's men and women have a right. And again, this is early on, so we really don't have the pronouns we have today. I'm sure if anyone was going to think of it back then, it would have been Eleanor. But the fact that she's got this language here, that to me opens the door for marriage equality. Right there in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There's also a Universal Declaration of Indigenous Rights out there. Again, the UN put together a few years ago. I was lucky enough to be invited to attend the celebration ceremony of its ratification, and it was a wonderful event. But that's another story. But anyhow, okay, so Article 17. Everyone has a property right, okay, and that doesn't mean slaves, okay. Article 18, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Again, this is freedom of religion, okay. I don't think they meant it the way it's being used today, where you can say your freedom of religion allows you to discriminate. I don't think that's what anyone had in mind ever. Again, let's move on here. 19, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion, expression. Again, the freedom of speech. Article 20, and you can see a lot of this is drawn from the U.S. Constitution and the debate among the Federalists, who had nothing to do with the current Federalist Society. In fact, I think they'd have a heart attack if they knew about them. But and they're so different from when I was in law school, even. But anyhow, and again, keeping in mind, but that the Constitution was written by a lot of slave owners, is kind of a weird entanglement there. But the way the Constitution was designed, is designed to expand and grow over time, not to be this static set thing that some people claim it to be, unless their opinion is of a different nature that needs a different means to an end. It's meant to grow. It's not meant to be set. Most of us wouldn't have rights today if that was the case. Okay. Anyhow, Article 21, you have a right to take part in your government, okay? Freedom of election, freedom of voting. 22, a right to health care, and I'm not reading any details, health care, living wage, things like that. I mean, this is really advanced stuff here, especially the living wage. I mean, health care, yeah, that's been kicking around, but the living wage, that's really ahead of its time back in the 60s. But again, we're getting there. And we missed that. We got pretty close with healthcare, but we could have had it perfectly but for one vote. And that's what it comes down today, as my friend Sal Kali says. It's coming down to one vote. our rights and everything. That's his the main statement in every one of his introductions to every Pride book we worked on together. Anyhow, 23. Everyone has the right to work. Okay, that's right to employment. You can't be no employment discrimination. Okay, 24. Let's see. Again, everyone has a right to leisure. Okay, that's very good. That again, that's a labor union origin. The 5-day work week, the 8-hour work day, etc. Which I believe you can trim down even more. With it doesn't work with education apparently. It has some limitations working out of your home, but for work, productivity is much higher than if you got to go into an office. And it's kind of silly with all the technology today to hold on a train back and forth for 2 hours and pay half your salary to train commutation and or car or subway, and then just to sit in a cubicle. When I worked out of the house after working my whole life in an office, my productivity went through the roof. In fact, I worked for a while at the largest law firm in the world, Denton's, and they went gaga over me because I was working out of the house, and my productivity was like 10 times that of anyone else. And it's not so much that I was working really hard. It was just that my ability to wake up, eat breakfast, have coffee, and then just flip the computer on, or today I would just use my device and start working. And my mother-in-law was living with us at the time. I'd go down and watch TV with her once an hour, and again, that didn't take away anything from my productivity. And and again, if I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, pop the computer on, do some work. Again, my productivity was excellent, and I even attended meetings while at my house. Anyhow, that got him gaga. Anyhow, let's see. There's 26 right to education. Okay, and in fact, it specifies here a right to a toleration in education, rational education. Okay, things that are slowly being chipped away at. You can't teach the full history of the United States without teaching about the slavery since the 1600s. You've denied a history of a large portion of our population who were put under a cruel and unusual punishment, in my opinion. Not even in my opinion, it's fact. And today to say ludicrous things that you may think is funny, but some people are taking seriously and thinking that's the way things are. But to say that slavery taught slaves a way to make a living like blacksmithing is ludicrous. And I always take out the Civil War picture, and it wasn't taken by Brady or Gardner. It was a woman photographer at the time, I believe, who took the picture of the African American with his back totally shredded by whip scars. Okay, and I put that up on Facebook and said, "Is this what you mean? I'm just asking." In any event, let's move on there. Okay, that gets me. And again, the denial of such a thing. As an Armenian, I have some understanding of what the African American population is going through on a scale 10 times beyond what we Armenians are going through for 106 years, with the denial of the Armenian genocide that took place in 1915 and slaughtered 1.5 million Armenians. And the, whatever you want to call the Turkish government back then, the Ottoman Empire, the Young Turks, or whatever, to go on and deny that for 106 years, until the President of the United States, Joseph Biden, stands up and says, "I acknowledge the genocide," and poof, that psychological burden disappeared. And what happened to Turkey? You didn't implode. You didn't get thrown out of the world. Okay, nothing happened. So all these years you've been denying it was for nothing. And the Armenian people were going crazy over the denial. It was like a psychological trauma, this denial. My father had it pinpointed. He said, if it didn't happen, then what happened to all my uncles? Okay, case closed. And again, some people were like, oh, what about reparations? I'm like, no one ever brought up reparations around the kitchen table. It was the denial. That was it. Anyhow, moving on. And again, to deny the experience of the African American community since the 1600s is ludicrous. The same for the Native Americans. It's not, nothing's going to happen to you. Forget this guilt trip business. It's a learning experience. And if you don't learn history, you will repeat history. And we don't want any kind of repetition like that. And by the way, you might be on the other end of the whatever. Okay. Anyhow, Article 27. Everyone has a right to participate in cultural life. Okay. And again, getting back to genocide, that is one of there's a checklist for genocide. It's not just a killing. There's a checklist of other items that identify genocide, and one of them is culture. Okay, so what the Nazis did with the taking away all the Jewish art and Hitler's plan to destroy all that art in that castle, which ironically is the model that Walt Disney used for his Magic Kingdom castle. Nothing to do with the Nazis. It just happened to pick the same castle. But that's where Hitler had all the art stash, or most of it, and was going to burn the place down until we rescued it. Anyhow, so that's culture. Okay. Okay, everyone's entitled to the articles in this declaration. Okay. Article 29 is something off of what we're talking about, and Article 20 is a prohibition about trying to destroy any of the rights and freedoms enumerated within this document. So anyhow, that's the Declaration of Human Rights put together by the United Nations under the supervision of Eleanor Roosevelt. And if you have any time this summer, I urge you to go and visit the FDR library and estate. You could tour his home. You can also, part of your admission includes touring Eleanor's getaway cottage and also one of the Vanderbilt family members' estates a little up the road. But they have a wonderful show there this summer about the African Americans and civil rights movement during FDR's tenure. Okay, and you can see what that was about and what was and was not being done. And anyhow, thank you for listening. Bye-bye.